Welcome back, everyone, to our story corner. I'm so happy you're here with me today for another wonderful English story. Today's tale is a very special one about courage and family. It's called The Farmer and His Brave Son. So, get comfortable, and let's begin. Once upon a time, in a quiet village surrounded by lush green rice paddies, lived a kind farmer named Ch. He lived with his young son Vanek in a small, cozy house built of wood and bamboo. Chenda was a hard-working man, known throughout the village for his gentle spirit and his dedication to his land. Vanek, though still a boy, was his father's shadow, always eager to help and learn. Every single morning, just as the sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink, Chenda and Vanek would wake up. They would share a simple breakfast and then walk together to their rice fields. Chenda would teach his son everything he knew about farming, how to plant the young rice shoots, how to tend to them with care, and when it was time to harvest the golden grains. Vanek listened to every word, his eyes wide with admiration for his father. He loved the feeling of the soft earth under his bare feet and the warmth of the sun on his back. They worked side by side, their laughter often echoing across the fields. Their bond was as strong and deep as the roots of the ancient banyan tree that stood near their home. They were more than just father and son. They were the best of friends. The days were filled with hard work, but also with joy and a profound sense of peace. One hot afternoon, as Chenda and Vanek were finishing their work, a strange stillness fell over the fields. The birds stopped singing, and the usual gentle breeze died down completely. Vanek looked up at the sky. "Father, look," he said, his voice a little worried. Dark, heavy clouds were rolling in, swallowing the blue sky and casting an eerie shadow over the land. The air grew thick and heavy. Suddenly, a fierce wind began to howl, whipping through the rice stalks and bending the tall palm trees. A brilliant flash of lightning tore across the dark sky, followed by a deafening clap of thunder that seemed to shake the very ground beneath their feet. Chenda grabbed Vanek's hand. "We must get home, quickly," he urged. They ran as fast as they could, the first drops of rain beginning to fall. Just as they reached their porch, another bolt of lightning struck with a tremendous crack. This time, it hit the old, dry tree right next to their house. In an instant, flames erupted, climbing up the trunk and branches, crackling hungrily. The fire spread with terrifying speed, licking at the dry grass and moving closer and closer to their wooden home. Chenda stared at the blaze, his face pale with fear. He was frozen, panic seizing his heart. Their home, everything they had, was about to be destroyed. But just as despair began to take hold of him, he heard Vanek's determined voice. "Father, the fire is coming closer," Vanek shouted, snapping his father out of his trance. While Chenda had been paralyzed by fear, young Vanek had sprung into action. His mind raced, thinking of what needed to be done. He ran to the large clay pots they used to store rainwater and started filling buckets with every ounce of strength he had. He struggled under the weight, but his determination was stronger than his small frame. He ran back to his father, holding out a bucket. "Come, father, we can do this. Let's fight it together." Vanek's voice was clear and strong, filled with a courage that seemed far beyond his years. Seeing his son's bravery, Chenda felt a surge of strength return to him. The fear was still there, but his son's resolve ignited a spark of hope within him. He grabbed the bucket from Vanek, and together, they began their battle against the flames. They worked as a team, a well-practiced rhythm born from years of working together in the fields. Vanek would run to fetch more water, while Chenda threw it onto the base of the fire, dousing the hottest parts. The smoke was thick and choked them. The heat was intense, but they didn't stop. They fought side by side, their movements synchronized, a father and son united against a common enemy. Slowly, painstakingly, they began to push the fire back. The roar of the flames began to soften into a hiss as they doused it with bucket after bucket of water. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last ember was extinguished. They had won. Exhausted and covered in soot, they stood in the rain, breathing heavily. The danger was over. Their home was safe. Chenda turned to his son, his eyes filled with tears of relief and overwhelming pride. He pulled Vanek into a tight embrace, holding him close. "Oh, Vanek," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You are so brave, my boy. You were so brave. You saved our home. You saved us." Vanek looked up at his father, his small face streaked with dirt but shining with love. He shook his head gently. "I was scared, father," he admitted honestly. "But then I thought of you. I only did what you always do. You work so hard every day. You never give up, even when the work is difficult or the sun is too hot. You taught me to be strong. You taught me to never give up." In that moment, Chinda understood. Vanek's courage wasn't just his own. It was a reflection of the lessons Chinda had taught him every single day, not with words, but with his actions. The story of Chinda and Vanek teaches us a beautiful lesson. Courage isn't something we are simply born with. It grows inside us when we are surrounded by good examples, when we see the people we love and admire face challenges with strength and perseverance. We learn to do the same. Courage grows when we follow the good example of others. Thank you so much for listening to the farmer and his brave son. I hope this story warmed your heart as much as it did mine. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to our channel for more stories that teach valuable lessons about courage, love, and the strength of family. We'll see you next time.